Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. We'll begin with the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, entertain a motion, looking over the agenda, I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Move to approve is Brennan.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Okay, approval of the minutes of the last meeting, the special meeting is found on page 1 through 4.
I have a question just about the minutes in general. How are those derived? Is the information in the minutes, is that a summary of what is said here, or is that it's just a general summary of things?
It's hard to put in conversation. It's usually just the motions and the seconds.
At the same time, if there's something that you want to, point out or to add to or
This is the time.
reword or whatever.
Well, just really what caught my eye was that in the new business portion of that, it says in there what the premiums for both of those insurance companies were. And I pretty specifically remember getting to the end of that meeting and thinking to myself, it's odd that nobody said what those numbers were out loud. And so it just caught my eye, and that's why I was wondering how this material in that minute, what that is derived from.
If they were mentioned, we can take that out. We can scratch that from the minutes as of, and do
Again, I'm not sure if it really matters, but it just caught my eye, so I was curious.
Well, the thing we have to be careful about too, if it catches your eye now and we go down and somebody comes back later, they may, see something that have a question related to, so if it's something that we need to correct in one manner or another, I think it'd be beneficial to, do it at this time.
And I'm, like I say, I'm not trying to point it out to be difficult or anything like that. It just happened to catch my eye because at the end of that last meeting, I remember finding it odd that we didn't mention that, any of those numbers specifically. It was an observation, and that is,
I don't
that's
remember.
it.
I mean, I didn't listen to the whole tape again, so if they weren't mentioned, then we could scratch it. If you want to do it as amended.
I don't know what the process is for that. It was mostly just an inquisitive question because it had caught my eye. And I don't know if that's something that's worth changing or if that even matters. I was just curious.
Well, I'll say this, if it is worth changing, then we can entertain a motion to amend it, and if not, we can leave as is.
I had a question also. Same new business insurance. I believe we were given a different quote via email that went up to $5 million from SDPAA.
Yes.
Is that something that should be amended in there too?
That was after the
That was
meeting.
after.
Okay. So,
Whatever we do, we'd probably do it in this meeting.
what's that?
We'd probably make that correction. I move that we maybe strike the premiums from the last minutes, but then in this meeting's minutes, let's make it said out loud of what the premiums per company is for whichever
Coverage.
we decide.
Okay.
I'll second that
Councilman
motion.
Johnson, okay, motion and second, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same, motion carries. Anything else with regard to the minutes of our last meeting?
Last two meetings.
Last two meetings, thank you very much,
Right.
yes,
Two meetings.
thank you. Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve approve those minutes
amended.
as amended. Thank you.
I
I'll
move,
make a motion,
okay, go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve the amended
And I'll second that.
agendas.
Okay, second? Oh, we have a second, right?
Yep.
All those in favor say, discussion, my fault. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. All right, here we go. Public input. Joe?
I have something. I'm sure that some of you on the council probably read the article in the paper last week that's titled City Hears Insurance Proposals, and I need to address some items that were incorrectly reported so that there's some clarification for the council. One of the things in here, it says, Veronic explained, and it's in quotations, if requested, on-site safety audits could be done annually at no significant charges. First of all, I didn't say anything in regards to on-site safety audits. That was all done by Steve Lincoln, our Director of Risk Management. And if you all remember, he said there is no charge for any of that. So that is not correct when it says no significant charges. There is nothing, part of our proposal, all of that is included in the proposal at no charge. The next item I want to touch on, it says, when questioned, Veronic stated he believes Intact insures 15 municipalities in South Dakota. That is not what I said. I said they insure over 50 municipalities. And then another item, it says excess liability insurance would be available with a $5 million umbrella. That is actually included in the proposal. That is not additional. That's not something that could be available. That is included. That is part of the proposal that we presented last week. And then the last thing that I want to touch on is, and I'm not sure why this wasn't actually discussed during the last council meeting, but it talks about, in discussions with Mayor McGow after the meeting, he stated ATI insured the school. It was well covered. The company left a pile of money missed during the initial inventory. American Trust Insurance is the agent for the school, but insurance coverage was provided by EMC per Sarah Gates, Miller School Business Manager. So with regard to that, the common denominator here is American Trust Insurance is the local independent insurance agent. And what we do is we align our clients with the companies that best fit their risk needs. So yes, the company is different. However, with regard to the city, this one at the school, they specialize in schools. This proposal that we're presenting to you with Intact, that's all they do is municipalities and public entities. So that's why the two companies are different, but the common denominator is the same. It's American through us, through your local independent insurance agent, American Trust Insurance. We're heavily involved in the process. Same way at the school, if something were to happen here, you know, when the adjuster is assigned and the general contractor came in, then they come to me and they're like, Joe, we need your help. We're gonna have 120 people that are gonna be coming, working around the clock, 24/7, 7 days a week. I need to house these people. I need to feed these people. How do I do that? Well, I step in, I give them the names of all of our hotels, our bed and breakfast, our campgrounds. I went up and down Main Street and talked to all of our food businesses and say, hey, here's the deal. These guys are gonna eat, there's 60 guys that are gonna eat at 11 o'clock, 60 guys that are gonna eat at 6 o'clock every day, 7 days a week. Do you wanna be a part of this process? Well, you're darn right, a lot of them jumped on it, and after the process was done, I can't tell you how many told me that how much of a major influx that was to them during the winter and spring hours season where they normally don't have much for income. So I just want to clarify that, yes, the companies are different. The independent insurance agent is the same, okay? So I just want to make those clarifications in case any of you read through any of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe.
Any additional input? Okay, I wanted, because that was an oversight of mine. It's actually reported, and there was an assumption on my behalf because it was, Steve was part of it and Joe was part of it, so I do stand corrected with regard to, you know, it's the same insurance, but it's just different branch, okay, so,
And
you
I
know,
apologize for 50-15. I heard 15, and even Mr. McGowan and I had a little conversation about that. He goes, "You said it's 15." I said, "I'm pretty sure he said 15. I should have revisited that."
okay, thank you for that. Any other public input? Okay, hearing none, we'll go on to a new business. Aubrey. Good to see you. Now, you've got big shoes to fill because your brother did one heck of a good job the other day, okay?
Don't expect that out of me. I'm not dancing.
Okay.
It was news to her.
Okay.
Okay, I'm Aubrey DeHai. I'm the head coach for Miller Swim Club. And once again, we are hosting our annual duck race at the Miller Pool. And we are just asking, in previous years, we have asked for a donation of a family pool pass for the following summer from you guys. And we were just wondering if you were able or willing to do that again. Our duck race will be held July 1st.
Saturday.
Saturday,
Yes,
okay.
next Saturday. And we were just wondering if you were able or willing to do that again.
I'll make a motion that we give a pool pass for the following year.
Okay,
Second.
discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries.
Thank you.
You got
And
it,
I,
Audrey.
I have one more thing.
Okay,
So, Miller Swim Club is planning on putting together a triathlon for,
We're planning to fundraise for the new pool.
okay,
So the Miller Swim Club would put on the triathlon. We would assist in getting everything together for that. We are just asking if it would be possible to use the pool. We don't have a date set. It would be in August. And so part of the triathlon would be swimming, I think a 400 meter. So just wondering if we could use the pool for that. All proceeds that we would get for that would be donated to the new pool.
what time were you looking at?
the morning.
The morning?
Yep.
So
Okay.
we would make sure it didn't interfere with lessons or the pool being open or swim team or anything like that.
Okay,
I make the motion to let them do whatever they wanna do to fundraise.
I'll second that.
okay, discussion. I commend you for this, I really do. It's-
Awesome.
It's, you know, the more, community involvement we have with that, maybe some other ones will have, you know, additional ideas to move forward too, so. Anyway, motion second, all in favor said aye, so we've got it passed, motion carries, right?
All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you
You
for
bet.
supporting the
You
swim
bet.
team.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ted is not here at this time, okay, we'll just go, Northview Drive sewer installation.
Okay, you guys approved put the road and the sewer and all that stuff in for them guys. The problem is we can't dig it that deep. It's pretty deep out there, so Tony Olson's here. He agreed to do it. You guys approve it and he's probably start on it tomorrow.
Okay.
Cause otherwise his equipment's gonna leave in the next couple days and won't be back and
Is there
You
a
got-
price on that? Does he know what it
yeah,
costs?
well, he said depends on the ground. He said it won't be more than 5,000 and if everything goes good, it'll be a lot less.
And he has the equipment, number one, to go down there, and number two, for the, safety
Safety stuff
Issues.
and,
for that
yes,
purpose.
and plus he's gotta, whoever does it has to haul something in, so. And his stuff's in town and he can do it, but once it leaves, it's gonna cost you more, cause
Get
it's
it
gonna be
back.
gone.
Okay,
And that's for 2 sewers,
Two
correct?
sewers, cause Mike Wiener wants his done also.
We have to do it, and I don't wanna be the one that compromises safety.
No.
nope,
Yeah,
I'll make a motion we approve that.
okay,
I'll second it.
discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same, motion carries.
All right, thank you.
Terry, while I have
Thanks,
you
Terry.
here, you and I had a discussion the other day with regard to the concern of the lagoon and maybe people, utilizing their sump pumps to go. Would you just explain a little bit to the concern
Well,
of
if it
the,
says get your sump pumps out of the sewer, that's what it means, cause
Yeah.
you can be fined $100 a day per occurrence. And a lot of people just think it don't apply to them, but it does.
okay, now, explain
Same way
also.
with water restrictions.
Water restrictions, thank you for that too as a reminder. But also the city is held accountable for, help me out with regard to our
Yeah, 'cause you
conversation.
get violations from the lagoons filling up too fast and they don't sit long enough. And in the past, they kinda let it go, but they're starting to crack down on that stuff, so.
So for, not only for the purpose of, everybody to be on the same page with regard to not, using, that means of, using their sump pumps, but it could cost the city a great deal of money if we get, inspections
Yes.
back that are,
$10,000 a day.
yeah. So, anyway, I wanna thank you for that information, Terry. Okay.
And the last time we dumped it, come in a little higher than it's supposed to, so.
Okay.
Cause that didn't sit long enough, so.
All right, very good, thank you, Terry.
Darius, I apologize. It came in higher, is that the,
Yeah,
pH level or whatever?
I can show you what it's supposed to be and what it come in at.
If you could, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay,
I don't have it with me right now.
all right,
in the office.
thank you.
I'll stop by next week then.
Now, we have a situation, July 4th is on Tuesday, and the concern we have is being able to have a quorum. Either it's going to be the 3rd or is the 5th for our next meeting. I will do whatever, I can put everything, plan on being here anyway.
I
Well,
would
we
think
got
the
a-
5th would be better, but
Fifth would be better. We've got a race on the 3rd, so, and it's a big one.
well, on the 3rd kinda ties in with the weekend.
Yeah,
coming
you
into
got the
4th.
weekend.
I don't know what you guys, anybody else says, but to me, the 5th would be better.
Just say when to be here and I'll be here.
You're easy.
Either, I think I have less issues on the 5th than I do on the 3rd.
You'd have,
I think the 5th would be good.
be better, okay?
Ladies?
I'm fine with whatever.
July
Okay.
5th is fine.
All right. Do we need a motion on that, or just a consensus to be the
A
5th?
motion to change it.
I'd move that we have the July meeting on the 5th at 7 o'clock.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Okay, in front of you, you have the new South Dakota Codified Law 125-1. And basically, what it deals with official meetings open to the public. It has exceptions, it also had public comments, and then violation as a misdemeanor. That, we're not gonna, we have no concerns. The thing we wanted to look at, go down to the number 1, 2, 3, fourth and fifth paragraph. And basically what this does, it involves public input. And what the state legislature did this last week, or this last year, is they allow the council to put a limit as far as the overall time on public input. And for the record, I'll just read it. The public body shall reserve at every official meeting a period of public comment limited at the public body's discretion as to the time allowed for each topic and the total time allowed for the public comment, but not so limited as to provide for no public comment. Public comment is not required at official meetings held solely for the purpose of meetings in executive session, and inauguration, swearing in of newly elected officials, or presentation of an annual report to the governing body, regardless of whether the activity takes place at the time and place usually reserved for an official meeting. So, having said that, I look at two things. Number one, we had one individual with regard to a public input. I'm not so sure the number wise, if we should place it, so much time per individual, maybe with a limit. I'm just gonna throw that out there for 15 minutes. you know, in discussion earlier with Shayla, if somebody is kind of gearing towards something for council consideration at a later date, we can have that individual come back and be put on the agenda to discuss it, but at least give it, you know, a little bit of time, you know, for the heads up on that matter. So what I'm looking for here, do you want to put and it goes into effect in July. That's when all laws as far as the state of South Dakota go into effect, unless prescribed otherwise. So this would take effect at our next
Do you
meeting.
want to put a time limit on the totality of public input or one specific item brought up in public input?
I don't know if we want to do it to an item simply because I don't want anybody to feel that we're limiting them
Specifically?
just because of the topic of conversation. I would rather see maybe just an overall time. And and then what we could do is prior to the first person getting up to with their input is to maybe ask how many others are here for that purpose. And then we could
Set a time
set
then.
a time limit with regard to that to fall within the 15 minutes.
Can those time limits be set at that specific meeting, or these time limits have to be determined before that meeting starts?
I would like to determine it before the meeting simply because I don't want to fluctuate the time, again, with a perception that someday we're going to limit that input and some days we're going to expand that input. I think I guess I value your insight with regard to that.
I think if you're fluctuating it and then somebody comes in and wants to talk and you decide to cut it down, then it's gonna look like you're being discriminatory against their topic. So I think if you have the same length of time for each one, it'd be best.
My opinion is we can always adjust. So if we started at 15 minutes, I feel 15 minutes is a fair amount of time.
Okay, do you want to, let's
more
have
than
a
plenty.
motion, okay, if we're having a discussion, but we can have a motion, if you want 15 minutes?
I make a motion that we start with 15 minutes. I feel as though, and then we'll adjust going forward if we have to.
Okay,
I think that's good. I'll second that.
second, any further discussion?
That's for the total.
Total public input.
Is for 15.
Will
15
not
minutes.
exceed 15 minutes.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
I feel as long as we're a respectful council, where if someone brings up concerns,
Yeah.
we can get the totality of their concerns so we can research it before the next meeting
Yeah.
when they'd be put on the agenda.
And then put on the agenda.
Would that be for all subjects? Say we had 4 people come in on 4 different subjects, they're all, it's a
If you have
15-minute
15
limit?
minutes,
15, just one. So it would be, you know, each of them with the 4 would be divided into equal slots to address that. Okay? Have a motion and a second on the table. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Thank you.
What's that?
You got the building permit, Ryan?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, somewhere.
We have a building permit from Jennifer Templeton for a covered deck. I'm assuming it's going on the deck itself, so she just put in a canopy over, oh, a covered deck, so she's gonna make another one. Okay,
All right, in the center of the property.
okay. Is it gonna be extended far enough so the neighbor has a pathway to the,
I never checked into that.
It's a neighbor's
Okay.
issue.
You'll be the first one to test that 15 minutes.
So noted, okay. It just seems like everything's been covered pretty well. Everybody,
Meter's
accounts,
out on the pole, so,
pardon me?
I said the meter's out on the pole, so I'm good with it.
All right. Has everybody had an opportunity to look at the building permit from Jennifer? Okay. Entertain a motion to approve the building permit.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Was Ted gonna,
He said he would be here, I don't.
okay, if not, we will move along with him. The special council meeting, last week, we had, proposals with regard to, the insurance. We had both representatives here. If there's any additional questions, clarifications that you would like to, ask,
I
or,
have a statement I'd like to read, if that's all right.
absolutely.
First and foremost, I'd like to thank everyone for the large amount of time and effort that has been put into this and this process. The thing about this process, that it has gotten made way more difficult than it really needed to be, and honestly, almost dysfunctionally so. We as the finance committee had a plan as to how we're going to receive these two proposals equally and fairly. That plan was ignored, and then we as a council adapted and really did try to make an honest effort to evaluate these proposals accurately. And that in itself was difficult, because a majority of the opposition that I heard, opposition to ATI, seemed to be based mostly on personal attacks on the agent rather than the policy itself. And I don't think we as the city government should be operating in that manner. For myself, this decision on insurance comes down to two major factors: the numbers and trust. And it's hard for me to put a lot of faith in a company that, for one, seems to me to have a business model built around undervaluing assets rather than covering it with a blanket. Two, has no issues or qualms with taking premiums and then refusing to cover you for that year if you choose to leave them. Lastly, their policy of implementing a one-year premium penalty if we would leave makes me feel like the city is somewhat a prisoner to their rules. And I myself, and with my business, would not do business with a company like that. And for me, that makes it hard to insist the taxpayers do. The second, and also large contributing factor into these decisions, comes down to the actual numbers and the price versus the coverage. And I'm sure we'll get into a little bit more of that here shortly, but when you're trying to compare the similar liability proposals, the numbers don't reflect a lot of what I have read. And if I'm not wrong here, if with SDPAAs at their $5 million liability and ATI at $6 million, ATI is still cheaper by about $4,700. SDPAA, obviously, in a lot of instances, does have better deductibles. And I struggle trying to decide what one of those is more valuable. And so, in my mind, there are a lot of contributing factors there. In summation, I'd like to emphasize really how much time and effort we have all put into this, and that none of these decisions are made lightly. And really, we're just trying to do the right thing. And I hope that everybody can see that and keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thanks, Will.
Any,
On the deductibles,
Can you come up to the microphone so they can hear?
on the deductibles, there's nothing personal against Joe or anything else like that. I think it's $500 per incident with the South Dakota Public Assurance. That's for everything. If, say, 10 buildings are destroyed or have to be hail damaged or whatever, it's a minimum of 500. That's it. With Intac, that is the correct one, isn't it, Intac? Theirs is $2,500, and if you have 10 buildings, that's $25,000. So there's a difference on the deductibles, quite a bit on the deductibles alone. Now, I'm glad that you brought up the $5 million. It's part of Intac. I don't know if it's part of South Dakota Public Assurance, or if they're gonna charge more for the premium. I haven't got that. I don't think anybody's here Go on.
We're here.
Okay, so what would be the cost then to go to 5 million?
So we did share that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay, I
we
missed it then.
quoted it the renewal, and I don't.
I have the number, I
Okay,
printed it
You
off.
have it printed, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, there is an additional cost to go up to higher limits, and we shared that with the council. We just quoted the renewal based on the coverages that they had before, cause
Right.
that, coming into it, that was all we were requested. We did go back and we did provide a quote for that increased limit, if that's what the council decided that they wanted to do.
And that increased limit was $81,416.96.
So it'd be another 4,000 higher.
It went up 7,500 from what the initial quote
7,500.
was, yeah.
Okay, just questions, that's all.
No,
I
that's
have.
good.
question.
I'm glad we
Uh,
have the answer on that one.
I'm glad Joe picked up that 5 million, because that was one of my questions. Are they up to 5 million or not? And he answered that question. I just didn't see it, because I have your packet and everything. I didn't see it listed in there as 5 million. Because I think it was listed at 2 yet. So thank you for doing that. Also, with South Dakota Public Assurance, they have 455 local governments. So does that make all of them in the state bad? I mean, for going to South Dakota Public Assurance? To me, that's saying they have one good insurance policy. Now, I know the city's been with them since 1991. That's 32 years of service. And I've always been under the thing that if it's not broke, why do you want to fix it? You know, nothing against American Bank and Trust. I banked with them for 37 years, so I have nothing against American Bank and Trust. But these are just some of the questions I came up with when I did go through the packets too. Probably not as much in depth as you did. My other question is, again, I don't know if I'm misquoting the press, but they had their final statement was that Shayla Cost didn't get her packet until that Monday night from your company. Was there a reason that Shayla was not invited to the committee meeting? Was she sick, out of town? I don't know the reason. That's why I'm here to find out. Was there a particular reason why the finance officer who handles the insurance for the city wasn't part of the hour-and-a-half or 2-hour meeting? And how come South Dakota Public Assurance was not guaranteed or given the same opportunity to have a committee meeting?
They absolutely were.
Given that
Oh, they
They
were
were given
offered the
and
The
committee.
rejected.
first meeting, were they?
Yes,
Yes,
they were given the opportunity, and I presented emails last week that said they would rather just present to the council because the committee can't make any decisions.
That's true, that's true.
That was their choice, not ours. We absolutely gave them that option.
Okay.
We
Now-
gave equal opportunity to each people
Okay.
to make it absolutely fair and
Good
representative.
question.
Yep.
You answered it. That's all I
Yep.
came for, is an
Perfect.
answer. Now, if you get away from South Dakota Public Assurance Alliance and you decide you want to do something else, it'll take 2 years to get back on, is that
Right.
correct?
Yep.
Okay. That's a long time to go with an insurance company that may not give you what you want. And then trying to switch back to South Dakota Public Assurance, you can't do it for 2 years. I guess I wasn't quite given an answer on the Shayla cost thing, why she wasn't part of the committee. Because usually the department head is part of the committee meeting. And she's the one that handles most of the insurance and everything else. Your department heads are the ones that have the information. They're the ones that should be inclusive on the committee meetings. They shouldn't be excluded from a committee meeting. And if that happened, I don't know if it did or not, but her packet, she didn't get it until that Monday night. That doesn't give her much time to go through and find out any more information.
The rest of us council members never saw it before that Saturday or the next meeting either.
Okay, well, that's
And there's
all.
proprietary information that was probably given to that committee.
I don't know, but it's,
Well, I would think there would be.
Well, we were trying to make it fair for both. If we just have a separate meeting with each one, let them do their proposal.
okay,
But we didn't want that information to get to the other one so that they, could compare.
understood.
So that's why we did it that way.
Okay. But still doesn't answer my question, but that's all right. You don't want to answer it,
I
that's
think
fine.
Dale definitely answered your question directly.
Hmm?
Dale answered your question directly, I think.
Well, I don't know if there was any proprietary or not, because I wasn't there, but,
I wasn't there either.
yeah. But it seems to me too, this is a major decision, and you're trying to do this off of 1 week of getting all the information. Like you said, it's overwhelming already trying to make a decision. And I just don't know how you can do it in 1 week. And,
Which is why we started this process weeks and weeks ago.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just a 1 week thing.
well, for some of them, this is the first time they got the proposal. It was only 1 week away.
It's not,
The
it's not
committee might
our
have-
fault that
Yeah, but
we weren't taken up on the offer for them to come here weeks ago and present to the finance committee. That's not our
It
fault.
went to the committee, but it didn't go to the whole council. So they've only had a week to read everything and try to get brought up to where you're at.
And that's why they have committee meetings though. So
I know why they have
can
committee
study it
meetings.
more in depth and then let the rest of the council know.
But I watched this last week, and I can't remember who made the comment about, well, maybe we should just go with the committee, their recommendation. And I'm not gonna pinpoint anybody here, but somebody made that comment. We should probably just go with the committee and their recommendation. You don't do things like that.
No,
And
I
if
think
that-
actually what I said was, if we aren't gonna use the direction of the committee, why do we have them, is what I said.
That's another good question. Why do you have them? But anyway, some of the questions that I had, that I wrote down, and.
I would like to address the one question that you had, and this is not on this specific subject matter, but is we've been a part of something for 30 years and why fix what's not broken, or we've always done things this way. It's our job as a city council, and you're on the city council as well, and I'm sure that it wasn't necessarily a blanket comment, but it is our responsibility to continually look at things, even if we've done them always. So I just wanted to make that comment.
Yeah,
That
and
we
the
can't
comment-
just blindly go with something
No,
because
no,
that's
I
just the way it's
understand
always
that.
been.
And the comment I was making is that 455 local governments can't be wrong.
So you're
That's all.
saying,
And Joe, do you have all 50 in the state,
All 50 what?
communities that you service
They're over 50 in the state.
in the state? Okay,
Actually, they're nationwide, they insure much more than that.
okay.
Intact has 50. How many do you have?
That's what I was referring to.
Intact has the 50.
American Trust Insurance also has
And they're out of Minnesota, is that correct? Okay, all right. So,
You said Intact has 50 or American Banking Trust has?
Well, American Bank and Trust is a bank. American
Oh, I'm
Trust
sorry,
Insurance is the
American Trust
insurance
Insurance,
agency.
So how many municipalities does the trust insurance?
The same ones we told you last week,
50?
10 to 15.
10 to 15?
10 to 15,
1 5? 1 5?
okay. Because I was getting this information, 15, I thought I heard 50 when you were up here, and then I heard 15. So I didn't know which way to go, and that's why I got some questions. And you come to the source to find the answers, so that's why I was here.
We appreciate that,
Yep.
Tony, we really
Thank you
do,
for your
thank
time.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comment or motion or,
The tipping point for me is the liability. I've been on public boards for 40-some years. I've been sued personally and as a board member on a school board. I was sued on a water development district twice, once for a meeting I wasn't even at. And I'll tell you what, when you start having a conversation with your insurance company, you wanna have a pretty big bottom line. 'Cause I was sued personally for 300,000 and the board was sued for between 1.5 and 2 million. It was a 9-member board, so that's 2.7 plus 1.5, and that was 25 years ago. So the tipping point for me is the extra coverage on the liability. And that's where I'm gonna
okay,
put my decision.
Tom, would you mind if I, answered some questions
Well,
that came up?
I'm gonna allow you and Lynn, if you would like to, you know, I know there's not a motion being made, but this is still kind of gaining more additional information, so if you would, and then Lynn, if you would like to, you know, comment too, please do. Please, yes.
So I want to be as open and as transparent as possible with this process, and want to keep this professional. And I want to clarify one thing. First of all, I appreciate the council and the mayor's due diligence in this. This process, if you remember, actually started about a year ago at this time. We ran out of time, and now we're back at it again. So this isn't something that, I want the general public to know, this isn't something that the council is just looking into just recently. This has been going on for a long, long time. And I've had, at the end of our meeting last week, I told anybody if you guys had any questions, because it was a lot to digest, to go ahead and fire away. And I have got a few questions from some of you over the past week, so I want to make sure I propose those questions to everybody so that everything is out on the table and clear. So I'm going to hand out a few things. Some of these were included in our original proposal, but I'm going to re-hand these out and kind of cover them, so because these questions have came up again. So, and this is in. Hand those around.
Just take one and pass it.
One of each, if you would, and hand them back. So, one of the questions that's came up a few times is, you know, what benefits does the proposal that we've presented, what benefits does it have for your employees? With regard specifically to like human resources services. So these first two flyers kind of explain that. So this service is available 24/7. It offers human resources matters, legal matters, various training for managers and employees, guidance on how to respond to harassment, discrimination issues. So the first flyer, you know, you got unlimited HR advice by telephone and email. This helps to reduce employment lawsuits with real-time advice from experienced HR professionals and/or employment attorneys. Training for managers or employees. Limit sexual harassment and discrimination claims with interactive online training courses. Toll-free complaint hotline. This is very important to have available for your employees. Encourage regular early reporting of employee concerns to a third party for crucial advance notice of claims that may be avoided. Public sector employment law updates and webinars. Stay abreast of employment law changes with email updates and periodic webinars. Online Knowledge Center, 24/7 access to online resources developed by employment attorneys and HR professionals, including sample workplace policies, step-by-step guidance, and red flags. The next one is risk control services. So since 1985, Tokyo Marine HCE and Public Risk Group has safeguarded communities by providing customized property and casualty insurance. Experience. Our team of expert risk control professionals include former law enforcement, fire, and EMS personnel, elected and appointed public officials, health and safety directors, and municipal risk managers. We understand the challenges that municipalities face, and our insureds benefit from our knowledge and experience. So, you know, this question has come up a lot. What is InTax? What is our proposal's experience? Folks, this is what they do. This is all they do. They insure municipalities and public entities. That's what they do. They don't do it just in South Dakota. They know the exposures in South Dakota, yes, but they also know the exposures outside, nationwide as well. This is a company that this isn't their first rodeo, okay? And that a lot of the services are tailor-made to city entities like this. Another thing a question that has come up is what's available for employee training. So I'm gonna hand around another one here. So one thing that Steve Lincoln, our Director of Risk Management, one thing we discussed last week, I mean, he's got 33 years experience. He'll come do on-site walkthroughs, conduct safety trainings, things like this. You also have access to Lynn DeYoung, whose credentials are listed here. He's born and raised in Tea, South Dakota. He's been directly responsible for ensuring the safety of coworkers in the workplace for over 25 years. He's been instrumental in coordinating, administering, and implementing comprehensive training and environmental monitoring programs in emergency response, occupational industry, environmental safety and healthcare, state, federal, and private industry. Down below, you can see some of his accreditations. First aid, CPR, AED instructor, OSHA instructor, defensive driver trainer, hazardous materials instructor, MSHA, I know this one was specifically asked about, MSHA trainer, stop the bleed instructor, hazmat, South Dakota firefighter. It goes on. And on the back page is his safety training and consultation that's available. Between Steve and Lynn, and also Intact provides as well, you have more access to training than you can possibly imagine. All free of charge, and the trainings can be conducted on site. Pat, I believe you know Lynn, you can probably vouch for him.
Yeah, I recently attended a OSHA class after OSHA came and cited some local contractor with a fine, and he come up and this was before any of this happened, and he come to Miller to do training to any contractor that wanted to help minimize a fine. And I didn't know that he was a part of you when this happened, but he did a very, very good class.
Yeah, so like I said, it's unbelievable the amount of access that would be available to the city of Miller and the employees if you were to move forward. The last thing I want to hand out here, take one of those proposals and one of these coverage forms here. So one of the main things that I've been asked about a few times since the last meeting, because this came up, if you decide, one thing that was discussed last week, if you decide to leave the pool, you would need to purchase, it was mentioned that you would need to purchase retro coverage. So, this quote, I didn't print the entire 68 pages for 8 of you up there, so I just because essentially the proposal's the same, all the limits, none of that changed. You can see the revised premium is actually, and on the next page, the second page, you can see retroactive date for your liability, 9/1 of 91. Third page, same thing on your professional liability, retro date 9/1/91. And then the last page shows the $5 million umbrella. So you'll actually notice that the premium went down. And the reason that is, if you grab the second form that I handed to you, I want to make sure that we're clear on this. So the first proposal that we had given you last week is an occurrence form policy. This one would be claims made, okay? So the difference between those two. Occurrence policy, the majority of P&C insurance policies are occurrence policies, which tend to be less complicated of the two types of coverage. An occurrence policy covers any instance of bodily injury or property damage that happens within your policy period, regardless of the date you submit the claim. So this means you could potentially submit a claim years after your policy period has ended, as long as the event triggers the claim occurred during your period of coverage. So, the claims made policy then, which is this most recent one I just handed out. So claims made policies tend to be more complex than occurrence policies because factors such as tail coverage and retroactive dates come into play. Claims made policies only cover claims made during your policy period. It's unnecessary to determine when the bodily injury or property damage occurred. So the next paragraph, it says the disadvantage of claims made policies is that if you or the insurer cancels or does not renew your policy, you will have no coverage for claims made after the cancellation or non-renewal date for injuries or damage that occurred prior to that date, which is basically what you were told last week, right? So, our recommendation, our professional recommendation is the occurrence form because it gives you more broad coverage and it gives the city more flexibility. So if you were to move forward with that proposal and then for whatever reason, you moved 5-10 years down the road, something came up after the fact, as long as it was covered during the policy period, you would still have coverage. Versus a claims made, once you cancel, then there's no prior coverage. So, we have both options there. That would be your decision on what's the best for you. I will tell you, based on our experience, the majority of them that we write that come over are occurrence form. That is by far the overwhelming majority. But like I said, the city of Miller would need to decide what's in their best interest. But you guys asked, so I gave you one that has, so you have both options. So those are the majority of the questions that were presented last week. Couple other things was asked about. There is no cosmetic damage exclusion. That one came up. No driver's list required. I think we had mentioned that last week. So those are just a few of the things that I wanted to mention. Those were kind of the majority of the questions that came up since we met last. So I wanted to clarify that. And last thing I want to say is I understand change is hard. Change is hard for all of us in anything. But more times than not, change is a good thing. I think we've proven last week in our prior meeting, the coverages, we can talk about deductibles all day long. But the fact of the matter is, you have 58 buildings, I believe, that are insured right now. The most you would pay out of pocket if a tornado came through and destroyed them all, the most with 58 buildings at a $2,500 wind hail deductible is $145,000. Well, I think we're all in agreement when we looked at the building values last week that there's a lot of buildings that are grossly underinsured. When you add those values up, it's probably in the millions. So that deductible becomes a pretty small number when it comes to the value of the buildings, which if you were to move forward with us, we would sit down with you and make sure that those are all adequately insured. And the last clarification I wanted to make is somebody had asked about blanket coverage. So the business personal property is blanket coverage. The buildings are not blanket coverage. However, like I said, we're going to make sure that the buildings are insured to value, they're adequately valued, so that blanket coverage would not be necessary. Does that make sense? So, anyways, that is what I wanted to touch on. Those are some of the questions that came up. So, I'll let somebody else come up and speak unless any of you have.
Your recommendation was the occurrence policy?
Yes, because it gives you way more flexibility, and it covers you, like I said, even if a claim were to rise after, let's say you canceled the policy 5 years, and a claim came up a year after that.
So this premium, that's $5,641. That is taking place of the excess liability line item. Is that what that?
That is the excess liability.
Yep. And that's so before it was $5,935, but since we're re-looking at it,
Yep.
that's what number you're talking
Yep.
about. It went down from.
Like I said, I didn't. If you want a copy, the retro coverage,
But the one policy with retro coverage only has,
occurrence.
does have a current.
Or I'm sorry, claims made. Claims made. The original proposal was occurrence. Yes, the one we provided last week. So that's the difference between those two. All the other coverages, the limits are all the same. The only thing is this retro one, retro coverage back to 91, and it is claims made.
So the previous proposal already is taking account for going back to 91.
What's that?
The previous proposal has an occurrence policy written into it back to the retro date, right? Is that?
No, it would be, once you write it going forward. It doesn't have retro coverage, only this one does.
Okay. So then
So this takes the place of the other quote, overall quote.
if you decided you wanted retro coverage but wanted a claims made instead of occurrence policy.
So our premium would go from down about $4,000. No, yeah,
Yep. But that's because it goes to claims made. Yep. So again, our recommendation would be the first proposal. Because it's a lot more broad coverage, but again, you would just, that would be up to you, but you asked, so I gave you the other option. So,
Any questions for Joe?
I have one. You say that we're grossly underinsured, so if you come through and you do a reevaluation of all of our buildings, is that gonna change the premium at all?
well, yeah, you're paying for more coverage. You're gonna have more coverage, yes.
Cause already
Definitely.
this is less than what theirs is by 7.5%.
What's that?
I said your valuations are less than what SDPA is, cause
Well, that's because we quoted apples to apples based on what we were provided from what you had at last year's renewal. If we'd have knew what those were, we would have quoted the same. But regardless, if you move forward with us, we're going to change those values because we're gonna make sure that they're where they need to be. Yep. Okay? Did I answer all the questions that have came up? I believe I did. I believe I addressed everything, so.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
thanks, Joe.
Lynn, okay, do you wanna,
Step up to the mic, please, Tony. Tony, can you come up to the mic, please?
If you change those proposals, is that gonna increase the cost? You're just talking about,
Yeah, yeah.
that'll increase the cost then too of the insurance, right?
If what now?
If you increase the coverage from what,
Well, yeah, you're getting more coverage.
yeah, getting more, so you're, basically, you know how much more to go up? Roughly, I mean, you don't have to be in the
I have no
ballpark.
idea, Tony. I'd have to see what the building valuations come in at.
Okay, so you basically have a new proposal then that you'd have to submit to the council?
What's that?
You'd have a new proposal you'd have to submit with the new figures on it, correct?
Well, wouldn't necessarily be a new proposal, if we decided.
Just increase it, they'd still have to consider the increases then, correct? Am I
If
wrong?
we wanted to.
If you wanted to, right,
Right.
if you wanted to go that way. Okay, just answer my question.
Thank you.
To go back to Will's problem with the minutes, what are those numbers? Because so far, nobody said what they are. If you had, said them so fast, I didn't get them written down. So the occurrence insurance cost how much? Because I didn't get a sheet, which is against open meeting policy.
this one or the one before? I was gonna get, yeah.
You mean
I'm over here going, I
we-
don't know what we're talking about.
the sheets tonight?
Yes.
Oh, you should have just asked, we would have made sure you got them.
It's his responsibility. But if I could get those so I could,
Do you have a sheet
Do you have
for,
a sheet for her?
I don't.
No.
like
Here,
it.
you can
Here,
have
you can
mine.
have
You
mine,
can
I can
have
look
mine.
at Dale's. Here,
you guys can share.
we
Yeah,
can
we'll
share.
share.
where am I at?
We actually talk to each
Sorry
other,
about that,
so-
Jan.
I'm over here going,
He gave all the copies out.
it happens. You can't believe how many times I have to send them in to make copies for
Lynn?
them. Okay, something I'm completely wrong.
Lynn's turn.
It's my turn. Okay. So Joe, right? Joe covered a lot of things tonight, right? So he came with some new options for retro coverage on a claims made coverage form. Whatever decision you make, whether if you decide to leave the pool, I certainly respect that. That's your option. But I really, really do believe that you need that retro coverage. Whether you purchase retro coverage on an occurrence-based form, because those are certainly, they should be available, or if you do retro coverage on a claims-made form, because you do not want to be out there without coverage. So whatever you do, that's the number one thing that I'm gonna tell you. Whether, of course, I don't want you to leave, but if you do, that's something that you, and your city attorney would reinforce that. When I was here last week, we talked about financial stability and stuff like that and what would happen if the pool dissolved. The SDPAA has been the SDPAA since 1987. Intact Insurance is a fairly new entity in South Dakota. Previously, they operated as One Beacon, and One Beacon got bought up by the Intact company. So there's some concerns there that when you start getting companies buying other companies, what changes are gonna be made and stuff like that. So it's just something to kind of keep in mind. We're local, we've been here, we've been the same, growing, but the same philosophy, same mission. Property values, I actually have a property survey that I'm going to bring to Shayla, especially if you guys stay with the pool. I will still send it to you. It's something that you're entitled to, but your property values do need to be updated. We have your survey. It is ready. It's not ready. I have the booklet. I need to go through and make sure that I agree with the numbers that have been put into place by Safety Benefits, because some of those numbers we might need to work on together to make sure that for specialized equipment and stuff like that, that we do have a good number, because they give us some good structural numbers. We just reinforce and make sure that those are appropriate. So yes, absolutely, there will be some changes to your property program, even if you stay with the pool, because you're due for your survey.
Which means the premium will also go up, correct?
Right, yep, so you've got based on the latest trend, and then whatever the increase, it would be a midterm change.
Okay.
So, yep, absolutely. Everybody is local. You know, you've got Joe, the local agent, he's here, he's acting great for you. And we would work with Joe, and I talked about that last week too. Joe is your local support person. Everything else is not necessarily local. The adjusters are not coming from Sioux Falls, they're not coming from Aberdeen, they're not coming from Miller. So we are local. Your contribution dollars are supporting local across South Dakota. The SDPA is South Dakota public entities only. Our risk exposure is focused on you. Our reinsurance that we purchase to help make sure that all of the assets are protected, that's not local, but that's okay, because we use our collective buying power to get that great coverage at a better price than what we would have if we just went with a local reinsurance option. And really there is none. So we feel coverage, if you wanted to sit down and do word for word coverage to coverage, honestly, coverage is going to be very much the same. Deductibles will be different. Application of deductibles will be different. That's a philosophy thing. That's commercial insurance versus what pooling does. Limits are something that you guys have to choose based on, again, we talked about your reflection of risk. Talk to your city attorney. Hey, what are our risks? What are the immunities that are available? The more coverage you have, you've now waived some of your immunity that you might enjoy because you have insurance coverage. So you just have to be very careful about some of that also. The final thing, I'm not gonna stand up here and talk all night. I mean, I could talk all night about the pool, absolutely, but you have a personal say in how your claims are handled. It says so in our coverage document. Before claims are settled, Shayla's gonna get a call. Hey, we are going to settle this claim for these many reasons, or we don't think the city's responsible for these many reasons. You have the opportunity to object to settlements or denials. Now, is it an automatic? Are we gonna be like, well, they said no, we shouldn't pay it, so we're not gonna. No, but your input matters. This is your pool. You have a say. If you've got coverage concerns, you have access to our board of directors at any time. I don't know who the Intact board of directors are. I don't know who their underwriters are. I'm pretty sure you could find them with a little bit of work, but they're probably not gonna have their personal cell phone numbers listed on their website where you can give them a call at any time. And the pool does that for you. But I respect that this is a hard decision. I agree that just because you've done something the same way for 100 years doesn't mean you should continue to do it that way. But if it's not really broken, it maybe doesn't really need to be fixed. And I don't think that staying with the pool is a bad choice, obviously, or I wouldn't be here. With all due respect to the finance committee, I guess perhaps we absolutely could have come and spent the same time, the same information that we offered to the entire council. We could have sat down with you guys and went through all of that. My hope was really to just be respectful of all of your time, so you didn't have to hear it all twice. I mean, I'm excited to talk about it, but rather than taking your time away from your families and your communities to come and listen to me talk about the same thing and then have to re-listen to it again, that's why we chose not to do 2 times. So, but we'll know for next time.
Question on your liability.
Yes, ma'am.
What is the aggregate or the total? I mean, with his, he's got his $5 million, what is it, a $7 million aggregate total? What is the South Dakota Public Assurance Alliance?
So we talked about before, we don't have aggregates. You have a per occurrence limit, but there's no aggregates. So you have a I think it's a $2 million per occurrence limit. You have that for all of your claims, because for payment purposes, we don't say, okay, we're only gonna pay 5 million or 10 million or 18 million per year for your liability exposures. We pay up to that 2 million every time you have a liability exposure per occurrence.
Or 5 million if we were to choose to go to.
Yep, if you chose to go to 5, then it would be 5 million per occurrence, no aggregates.
When you say occurrence, is that like one storm? Is that what you mean, or?
Yep, so occurrence for property is a storm. Occurrence for liability would be like, the most common occurrence, honestly, for cities is sewer backups. So one occurrence is multiple sewer backups in one storm event, or one clogged sewer goes into 7 houses. That's one occurrence, because it was one event that caused damage to multiple people. One car accident, so if we back into a bus, all of those people on the bus, that's one occurrence. Make sense? Okay.
Questions for
Sorry,
Lynn?
I'm just wrapping my head around that too, so you talked about the car wreck and then you talked about the sewer backup, so that's 2 occurrences, and you have that both in the same year?
Yeah.
And then that would be
Yeah.
double what you look at.
Yep, so you would have 2 million for the car accident under the auto liability, you'd have 2 million for the sewer backups under the general liability. If you had another sewer backup, you'd have $2 million for the next sewer backup, and the next, and the next, and the next. The city has no deductible on their liability coverages. For their general liability, law enforcement, I believe, is $2,000. Employment related, everybody has a $5,000 deductible, but we have the hotline that you call in, fellow advice, so you waive that deductible.
The tornado goes through, that's one occurrence, everybody's houses get destroyed.
So the city doesn't cover everybody's houses. City properties, one occurrence, one tornado, yep. And then whatever the risk pool didn't pay, then we've got some FEMA exposure, because certainly, like Spencer, South Dakota, it was a catastrophe. Last year when we had the derecho winds, the city of Castlewood, we worked with a lot of them. We took care of all their claims, so they filed for their deductible.
But a captive too, unless they were.
Nope, that's different, so that's property coverage, so that goes to the property blanket limit. So the tornado is property, so that's not the $2 million limit.
Your excess in addition to the 2 million, what was that costing to go to 5?
So I sent that on an email. I pulled it
Okay.
also.
Before rebates, it was 86,357.20.
Yep, and then you'd get
After rebates,
4,940.
49.40.
Yep, credits.
Before rebates, it would be 81,416.96 for the 5 million.
Yes, correct.
5 million per occurrence, again, no.
No aggregates. Nope, just 5 million per occurrence for as many occurrences as you have.
As long as you have money in the pool, correct? When those,
So just so you understand, we don't pay, the pool does not pay the $5 million. The pool has a deductible also. So the pool pays 500,000 of that 5 million. And then we send the other 4.5 million to reinsurance. So we handle the claim, but we have coverage to pay those. So we are not paying $5 million for every occurrence you have. We're paying 500,000 for every occurrence that you have. And you are paying potentially 0, maybe 2,000 if it's a law enforcement claim, maybe 5,000 if it was an employment hotline and you didn't call the hotline.
Does your reinsurance company then have an adjuster who would come out, or a claims
Nope.
person?
So our claims people handle the claims, and then we report to reinsurance. So reinsurance, they give us the authority to handle the claims. So you still have your local adjuster who you're in contact with. For those liability situations, you have local panel counsel that are across the state, experts in their various fields chosen by the pool to work with the pool based on their agreement to, for example, not sue other public entities. Because that's a pretty respectable thing. Like, if you're gonna defend us, maybe don't sue us, that's fair, right? Not necessarily the case. Commercial insurance, so when I work for commercial insurance, a lot of times we would have We would have to engage local counsel to work with other counsel that we've already partnered with, so now you've got potentially 2 attorneys working on claims, whereas we just have local counsel.
Who is your reinsurance through?
Right now, our liability insurance is with Great American Insurance. Property, we have, all of our property program is reinsured through Lloyd's of London.
So back to the bus thing, if you have a bus full of 20 kids.
Sure.
Your coverage is 2 million.
Yes, right now, $2 million for that liability claim. You don't have to kick him, he's not driving, he's not driving the car that.
Land fire.
Yeah.
So, to go back to her bus question,
Yes,
you got 20 kids on the bus,
okay.
you got $10 million in claims because these kids all got hurt.
Sure.
That's on the car insurance side, and the liability is just the fact that you're back into them.
So the auto liability, if you back into someone with an auto, that's auto liability, and that's the only exposure that would apply, is that auto liability line.
2 or 5 million.
Yep, right now it's 2 million. Yep. Yes.
So what was the lawyer's
I sent that to
opinion
her.
or whatever?
Her opinion is that the coverage, she's worked with South Dakota Public Insurance Alliance, along with the city of Pierre, and with Miller, and then their office has worked with them with other cities. Her coverage, she said, the price of the 2 premiums was not even worth discussing because it's too close. But the fact that she knows how to work with South Dakota Public Insurance Alliance, the claims is just absolutely seamless with Claims Associates. There's no issues. You go directly to them. They're back to me usually within half an hour. If I submit a claim, I've got a claim number and I've got an adjuster and I've got a phone number and an email immediately with Claims Associates by going directly to the company. Her thoughts were the benefits far outweigh with South Dakota Public Insurance Alliance. But she did have the caveat that insurance is not her specialty. So she was gonna run that by some other offices, attorneys in her office. So.
Probably needs to find that committee, otherwise it would've been a quorum.
Okay, but did you?
Yep.
Okay.
Question?
Yeah, I just asked him, she's talking about the lawyer, and I just wondered when that came in. And that
It
was
got
during the
sent to the
finance
committee members.
committee.
And I sent it to your home one. I sent it to everybody. Everybody should have got it.
I don't know why I'm not getting those.
On the emails?
But yeah, that's,
No, we got it.
Yep, that's the one, yep.
That's when I sent it to.
And when did you send that? I'll look
well,
at that.
either way.
It doesn't matter, but if it's not working, I probably should figure out.
I don't know what
Oh,
time
if it was this morning, I was busy at work all day, so I wouldn't have seen that.
Sometime today, I don't know.
Yeah, that's probably why. 'Cause I barely got home to get here.
Any other questions for Lynn?
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you, Lynn,
Thank
very
you, Lynn.
much.
I
Thank you.
appreciate you. No matter what your decision is, we appreciate that we have had the opportunity to serve you. We will still see you at all of the events, even if you do choose to leave the pool. It's been a pleasure to serve you so far, and I hope that we get to continue to serve you and continue this wonderful relationship that we have with the city.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate all of you as well. And I know you guys put a lot of time into this, a lot. Want the general public to know that this isn't a knee-jerk reaction.
You know, and I'm just gonna make this comment before we move on. I think each individual personally, I think we all in this category, when we make personal decisions, we take a great deal of stock in those decisions. When we make decisions based on what's best for the community, we take that very seriously. Because we know we're not only, we're affecting a lot of avenues, you know, with regard to that. So I just, you know, sometimes it's perceived that the fact that something is brought before us, we vote on it and move on like there's not a lot of work behind the scenes, and I guarantee you, there has been, there will continue to be, and with regard to the decisions that have to be made. And there's many a times, not only with a matter of this magnitude, but other magnitudes that once we leave here, you know, I can just speak for myself. I know I personally dissect everything, and it's not if we get home late, it's not go to bed right away. I mean, it's a process of kind of going through everything that has been discussed and things of that sort. So I just want the public to realize that. So.
And just so you know, I wasn't texting anybody, I was,
No.
I got an email.
Well, see, I have this computer up here because this is the agenda, and then I go through this, so I don't want to make it look like I'm up here doing
I know.
anything else than that too, so.
And I do wanna clarify that the department heads and myself spent a lot of time gathering this information for Joe. This has been, what, a 6-week, 8-week process to get the quotes, the information to him for the quotes. So it's been a lot of work in my office, as well as tying down these guys so that I could get more applications filled out and more questions answered. So they put a lot of time and effort into this.
Well, yeah, so did Shayla. I know I sent you a lot of emails,
Yeah.
a lot of emails for
A
information.
lot of time,
And I do appreciate it,
so it's.
for sure.
She has a lot of time into this.
Yeah. And
a lot of work.
I shared with Shayla earlier, if you send me an email and I don't get it, I don't respond, you text me because, and we had texts today and things of that sort, because, for the most part, we're as available to do the things that we need to. I have the benefit of my occupation with regard to, being pretty much readily available to do those things, so, anyway.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move that we accept the bid of American Trust Insurance with the occurrence policy that was recommended by Joe and the retro coverage.
Okay,
Retro is the claims made.
Yep, claims made.
So those are two different things. You gotta pick the occurrence or the
Oh, okay,
claims.
we gotta do that on separate, all right.
Well, there are two different
They're two different
coverages.
policies.
You want the retro? You guys say claims.
Oh, okay.
If
I
you want the occurrence, you got.
Which,
I don't know that we need retro, but I would just leave it at the occurrence policy that he recommended. Let's send up the balloon and see where it goes. See if you want it or not.
my discussion, I guess. on
okay,
it
let's
was-
have a
Give me a
second
second.
first, please.
I'll second it.
Discussion now.
I think you gotta,
I would like the retro, I guess. That would be a feeling of mine.
I think in a perfect world, you have occurrence coverage with retro, but if that isn't one of our, I don't know that retro, that didn't need to go back to 1991. I think statute of limitations probably keeps us safe on most of that, but
Does anybody know that? That's what I was gonna ask. Is there a statute of limitations? Can you,
It depends on the type of claim that's made.
okay.
So some claims, so for bodily injury, they have your municipality, so they have 2 years from the date of injury to file suit against you. They have to make proper written notice within 180 days in writing to the mayor. And then for property damage, it is 7 years. Again, proper written notice to the mayor within 180 days. But there are some types of claims that have much longer time periods than that. There are some claims that will have a 10-year statute of limitations. If you have any sort of Parks and Rec program, if there's any claims or allegations of sexual molestation, that can go back quite a ways. And those claims may not be recognized yet, and until the government establishes some different statute of limitations. So you do have some exposures out there. You certainly do not have to go back to 1991. You can go back 2, 5, 8, 10, however many years you're comfortable. It's just right now you have coverage back to 1991 with the risk pool.
Okay. let me, those who listen to this at home, can you hear if somebody's not up to the mic?
Oh, that's right.
Because I would like to make sure that from now on, the people that are at home can hear the discussion too as well. You can't? Okay, then I would ask, moving forward, that we come up to the mic to give them the courtesy to, okay, all right. Any other discussion?
I like the idea of the occurrence policy because it means that we can leave if we don't like what we have without any sort of penalty. That being said, I think we do need to have some sort of form of retro protection there that goes back. Again, this would probably be a question for the attorney, but it's hard for me to fathom a scenario in which we would have to go back more than 10 years. But an attorney's gonna have a better answer on that.
Our current coverage expires when?
September
9th, September 9th.
What is our
Okay.
renewal date?
September.
But you have
we
to
have to
provide
make a
60 days
decision
notice.
on this before.
Right.
Yes, thank you very much, Lynn.
Okay, so what you can do, if you need more time, if you are not comfortable, not ready to make this decision, what you can do is tonight you can make a motion to formally notice your withdrawal to the risk-sharing pool. That gives you've made your proper notice. You have until September, I would ask by September 8th, just so if you do decide to leave, we can let everybody know that on the 9th, we don't accept any more claims. But that gives you that extra 60 days. So basically, it's just a notice thing. If you give us notice, you can rescind that notice and say, you know what, we changed our minds, we're gonna renew with the pool. So that does give you extra time if you need it. And it kind of sounds like maybe you do need a little bit extra time. So my recommendation, not that I have any authority to give you advice, would be to, if you're not ready to make a decision, if you need more options from Joe as far as retro coverage, finding out if you can do an occurrence policy, which it sounds like you all like the occurrence policy, I would prefer an occurrence policy for you if I was giving you advice, and see if you can get some sort of retro coverage on an occurrence policy. And then just making sure that in that occurrence policy, are there some claims made coverage lines? Because sometimes like your employment-related claims and your law enforcement claims, sometimes they do write those as claims made claims, and that's totally fine. But that would be my recommendation. If you're not ready, don't make a hasty decision. Do your letter of intent. That buys you the extra 60 days. You've fulfilled that part of the IGC obligation. You've got the extra 60 days. You can get the information that you need so that you have all of the information and you can feel good about what choice you make.
But that's not stated in that contract, is it? That
The-
you can do that? It says you have to.
You have to give 60 notice if you intend to leave. It doesn't say that if you make notice, you have to leave. That's not your automatic out. That's just giving the pool your notice of intent to leave. And then you can just rescind that. Then if you decide to stay, then the council makes a motion later to rescind the notice of withdrawal, and then.
I guess we weren't aware of that last year because we went through this process, but then ran out of time.
And I think it's because we started this process right at July 1st. You almost didn't even have time to even make the notice. Like, we started talking about this, I think, very close to, or even after the notice date would have been due.
It was like the day before or something,
Yeah.
something like that.
So
So-
to be clear, if we file whatever you're suggesting here,
Yeah.
we could leave after that July 9th without a financial penalty?
So your coverage, if you do your notice of intent to withdraw, your coverage will continue through September 9th, just like it does no matter what. You have then until September 9th to either renew your coverage or place it somewhere else. On September 9th, you have had to decide though. We will not renew your coverage if you do your notice to withdraw unless you tell us that you're rescinding that.
I'm asking
Okay.
about the one-year premium penalty.
That's what
So
I'm.
if you do your notice of withdrawal, then
There's no penalty.
there's no penalty because you've satisfied that.
See, I think that's what Councilman
Yes.
Will was trying to address, because it's in there, if we don't do it by a certain time, we
Yep.
are obligated to pay a year's premium.
Right. So that's why I'm saying if you need more time, you do your notice, then you can rescind your notice and renew with the pool. And you're not obligated, if you decide to change, then you've met your commitments, you've fulfilled your obligations, you can change if you want.
It just doesn't, it's not stated that way in that contract.
I think in the contract, it doesn't give you the opportunity to rescind after.
Right.
And a lot of that is because when they're working on, and especially those that are mid-year, we're working on our budget and anticipating, okay, we have this many members that we need to provide services to. And so utilizing those contribution dollars, how are we going to make sure that we have appropriate funds and rates and stuff like that? So,
And I don't like quoting things that I don't have in front of me, but it was a perception if we did make our decision by a certain time, and I think that is the 9th
I
or the
had
15th?
I had a July date in my
Yeah.
head.
so
July
July,
9th.
yep, July 9th is the date
July
that you
9th,
have to give us written
We were obligated
notice.
to pay another premium, so we were, okay.
Right. So
And
that's
Okay.
the
what
written
it
notice.
says in the contract.
That's what it says in the contract.
Yes,
Yes, 'cause
and we
I
all
have-
agree. You have to give us written notice of your intent, and the intent, you could say, well, we intend to withdraw, but we're not gonna make a final decision. So
Okay.
you can make your intent, and then you can rescind your intent,
All right,
if that's what you need to do.
sounds good, very good.
Does that make sense?
Any
Yeah.
additional questions for Lynn? Thank you for that clarification.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay,
But that's it.
Yeah.
so it doesn't read that way.
Yeah, and in fairness, it doesn't read that in there. I mean,
No, it
yes.
doesn't. No.
There's a motion. and a
Okay,
second.
we have a motion on the table. Cheryl, would you please read the motion?
Dale's motion and Mike's second to accept ATI. He had a occurrence policy with retro coverage, but dropped the retro, so as recommended by, the occurrence policy as recommended by Joe.
Okay, everybody understand the motion? Okay? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Wait, well, let's quite, one
Are
more.
we not gonna try to have any retro coverage, or what's the consensus?
Well, let's do it this way. We have to do something with this motion. And if, based on this motion, then we can proceed to what we wanna do with something. So go ahead.
I was gonna say, you could do a roll call vote, and
Yes,
if
yes.
somebody wants more, we can do another motion.
Yes, we can.
If it doesn't pass as this, then you can do another
Another
motion
motion.
to try to find retro coverage.
That's true.
Just some form of it. Now, I'm not suggesting it goes back to 1991 or anywhere close to that.
Right.
But I
Yeah.
think we do.
I would
I'd have
recommend
no
a
idea
roll
what-
call
when
vote.
Yeah, I will
That
too,
makes
because that's
sense.
what I was going to go with anyway. And in fact, when I started saying, I just don't. Councilwoman Harkins.
Okay, so,
So,
nay.
Let's
We're gonna
let's
get a
further
different
discussion. So basically,
We're
right
gonna do
now,
a different motion,
Just
right?
wait now.
we're looking,
To accept, the motion on the table is to accept Joe's recommendation for occurrence policy with ATI. That's the motion on the table, without retro, because you can't get them both. So the motion on the table right now is that.
to accept that
So
exclusively?
if we want the
or-
retro, we
Yeah.
have to vote this down.
You have to vote this
This
down
down.
and then
Okay.
do another motion
Yeah.
to try to
Okay.
find retro
So I'll say
coverage.
nay.
okay,
Well, couldn't you vote yes on this and then still do the retro? A separate policy for it?
If you can find it. It's a,
How about we just get through this and then re-clean up the motion?
There we go. Yeah, let's just,
So we'll kill this one and then.
we'll kill this one and then we'll do
redo
it a different way. Yeah.
Unless you wanna vote yay for it, but.
all right?
Understood.
Let's
Yeah.
skip. Councilwoman Harkins,
It was nay.
you nay?
Nay.
Nay.
Councilman,
Nay.
Nah.
Aye.
okay, all right.
I'm gonna prove those people wrong that said,
With the motion, 5 in the affirmative, or the
nay.
nay, yeah, again,
Nays have it.
opposed, and 1 in the affirmative, motion does not pass.
Can we try to?
I'd make a motion that we do the intent to leave the pool and go with a policy from ATI Insurance. But we need to look into the retroactive coverage.
Perfect.
I'll second that.
Discussion. Hearing none. Do a roll call vote.
Can
Councilman-
I wanna make sure I've got this right though. You want to write the letter of intent to leave the pool.
Which we can rescind if we
Yeah,
choose.
and-
If we switch.
With the.
and go with ATI
And shop for the retro.
and shop for retro coverage. So if you don't get retro coverage, you're still gonna go with ATI, or is ATI based on retro coverage?
Can we cross that bridge when we get there? If the main part of the motion is to make that, in letter of intent.
Right.
Because we're not accepting his bid with this motion.
No.
Okay,
Okay,
okay, roll
All right.
call.
do a roll call vote on that. Councilman Jones,
Aye.
Councilman Price,
Aye.
Councilman Harkins,
Aye.
Councilman Wentz,
Aye.
Councilperson, woman, council, yes,
I can be laughing.
yeah, Councilwoman Harkins.
Aye.
Sorry about that, I do not, yeah. Okay, we have all 6 in the affirmative, no opposition, so, the motion does pass. Okay? And I hope that, that's an indication of just how serious, I shouldn't say how important a matter this is, as well as other things, moving forward, with regard to what the decision is going to be made. And, so with that,
Contrary to some belief, that whole particular last process is pretty good evidence that we aren't just jumping into this blindly.
Joe and Lynn, I can't thank you enough for all you've done in preparation for your proposals and the interest you have, for the city. That does not go unnoticed, by this council or myself and our community. So I just really want to thank you and, because I know you have the best interests of our community, of the council, of everybody involved. So again, I appreciate that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming,
Yes.
Yes.
Thank
for
you
all
very
the
much.
information.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
I might add, you're the only, every gentleman should have stood up and.
I think my feet are so cold, I don't know if I can stand up.
Stuff, so, having said that, I just appreciate, the council's due diligence and just, everything that, has been put in and will continue to be put into, this matter in making the decisions, that will ultimately be made, so, again, thank you, so, anyway. The other unfinished business is with regarding the electrical department employee. Is there any action that, with regard to that?
Yes, it does.
You want?
I don't really have anything. Anybody got any
Okay,
questions?
anybody have any questions?
You just took the stand like you're ready to talk.
Yeah, sure. I think you guys have been through enough.
Yeah. Are we ready to make a decision with regard to that? I think that's what we're looking for. That we're making the decision at this time with regard to maybe adding on an employee.
I think the biggest thing that the council wants to make a reference to is no decisions we made, that the only thing to be made is like opening up applications, and if we get the right applicant, then the discussion we made to be adding the employee.
Correct.
Okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Do you want to, yeah, do you want to say,
I wanted to say that at least the intent of the council, the way I understand, was no decision has to be made to find an employee but at least we can open it up to accept applications, and if we get the right employee that we want to bring onto the city, then the decision be made to hire that third employee. But at least just start the process and not make any hasty decisions and just get applications coming in. If we get the right one, then we'll talk about, yes, we're
I
gonna.
second that.
Okay, I'll
Yeah.
entertain that as motion, second.
So we're,
Write that motion however you want, but I'll second it.
Opening the application
Opening it.
doesn't obligate us to hire somebody.
so we're just making a motion to
Accept application.
accept
Yep.
application.
Yeah.
To advertise as well?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay, yeah, we'll have
absolutely.
to advertise.
And I guess I'd like to add to that, so Wessington Springs has been looking for a lineman since February, and it doesn't sound like they're having any luck. I know last meeting, you were talking about getting specific on what we were advertising for. I would really just like to have, some sort of electrical background, I mean, and then that would kind of be based on experience from there, just to see where that person would be at.
When you're talking about, Dustin, when you're talking about electrical background, is there anything specific that I mean,
You
what?
know, I
Minimum
think we'll
certain
just have
amount
to
of
see
years
what
or
we'll-
anything?
We'll have to see who applies. I
Yeah.
think I just hope to see some applicants.
Yeah.
Applications, you know.
Well, okay, I like this idea simply because the fact that just because we're gonna open up doesn't mean the flood doors are gonna we're gonna be bombarded with applications.
No.
Today's day and age,
It's
that's not the way it is anymore.
And they're
Right.
not the only community.
And this gives us ample time to make sure that we bring on someone who applies that is going to have what we are looking for with regard to the electrical experience. So, and I appreciate that too, with regard to that. With that also, I do wanna, I wanna thank Dustin and Devin for everything that they've done with regard to the electric department, as the other ones too, because Dan helping out when he can and things of that sort, and Terry and his group getting the pool and everything else ready and run with the streets, and Shayla with the finance and the law enforcement that we have. The community is well served. And along with the electrical, I do want to thank, Dakota Energy for their assistance, too, as well, when we've called on them too as well. So, okay, thank you, Dustin. So, motion,
My concern would be, for the public to perceive, if you advertise, that's pretty much you're gonna hire somebody if you get the right person, correct?
And
That's correct.
technically, the decision wouldn't be made, so that would give us time to get public perception, and they can come in here and give their public input, and then we can take that public input as a totality. And I'd invite any input from the public
Sure.
to come in and talk about any issue, regardless if it's this one or anyone in the future. I would love, I like when the room is full.
Just to clarify, the motion was to offer a position, not to hire somebody.
not to hire somebody.
Open up for application.
So we have that,
Yeah.
Advertise.
if I'm understanding correctly,
Yes.
we have that authority to not hire somebody
Yes.
also.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think one more discussionary purpose, before we go here, and this goes with anything, and I think we all try to get caught up to speed with regard to some of the integral part that's going on within the city. Myself, the council members, sometimes we see things because we have direct access with regard to the information that we're given, and also that we do our own research on. So I think the Councilman Price's, invitation to those who, you don't have to come to a meeting if you just ask, see us on the street, just ask us for our input or take. So that, I might be getting beyond the motion and the second and this, but I just wanna, your input is important, because we represent you. Anyway, have a motion on the table and a second, with regard to,
Advertise, applications for electric department employee with electrical background.
okay,
Perfect.
all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose the same?
I oppose,
You oppose, okay.
just because I'm not quite getting it, so
Okay.
there's
No,
plenty
no,
of you
no,
that get it,
no.
so.
You know, and that, you know, that's another thing. It's nice that you have an overall consensus on some things. You don't need it on everything. I think the one thing that I appreciate about this body is the fact that if there are times that we disagree on some things, we can still work together. And then, or maybe gather additional information that might sway us, you know, one way or another. I'm gonna put this for just more or less input. I appreciate the two of you sitting down and having a lengthy discussion and gaining some valuable insight for each other. And I think it put a few misnomers to rest too, because I think it was beneficial, both you, Dustin, and for Councilwoman Lichty. So I do appreciate that, okay? Okay, now, we
skipped.
I know, we have to go back up to Ted. He's talking about the police tasers, and if you go down to pages 5 through 11, you can see the, and I'm assuming here, you see a 5-year useful life recommendation, and with regard to why we have it and so on. So his recommendation is to, and I should have stopped over and visited with him today, and I didn't.
Well, I did ask, and he said he would be here tonight, but
They probably got into, I think, something, so
yeah,
maybe.
something happened. And that's what's
In other
hoping.
words, you know, he would have been.
Hope he didn't
Oh,
have
yeah.
to use his old taser.
Hopefully it worked if he did.
Maybe tasered somewhere.
I don't know if it's necessary that we have to push it in case we have questions. I do know that just with interactions with him, I do know that he has a couple that are coming up to their end of lifespan. So he just wanted to start a replacement schedule and go from there, so. But I guess I move to table it until the
Okay.
next meeting.
Sounds good.
I second that.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same? Okay, motion carries. Approve the bills.
I'll make a motion, we pay the bills.
I'll second that.
Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. I do want you to refer to page 12 on the correspondence from Titan Machinery with regard to the
Lawnmower? Would you like me to read it for you?
Wait, please do, my mouse is not working.
Dated 6/6/2023, dear City of Miller. Thank you for your recent purchase of a Pro 652 Ariens lawnmower from Titan Machinery. Our team wants you to be completely satisfied with us, your purchase decision, and with the performance of the equipment. Our top priority is ensuring that the equipment you purchased was received in the condition that you expected it to be in and is performing well. If you have any concerns with your equipment purchase, your purchase experience, or Titan Machinery, please contact one of us and be sure to follow up as quickly as possible. Again, thank you for your purchase from Titan Machinery. We greatly appreciate your business and the opportunity to serve you. Our team is committed to providing you maximum uptime for your equipment. Sincerely, Damon Bruggeman, Tad Engelman, Service Manager. Damon Bruggeman is the Equipment Sales Consultant, and Jared Bruggeman is the General Manager.
Okay.
And I'll probably be talking to you because I'm Mike and I'm in parts.
It's not gonna break down, they say.
Expecting it to break down.
What, it's a Gravely?
Advertisement.
Oh, way to go.
All right.
I stand corrected, it's a Gravely.
That was a Gravely mower instead of an Ariens.
I don't know what they sold, I just get parts for them.
All right. Having nothing else further on the agenda,
I have one more
oh,
thing, if I could, I'm sorry. Could I have the numbers of, like, South Dakota Public Assurance Alliance's numbers finally were? People at home, I have this one in front of me from Joe, but I still don't have what the first one.
With the credits and the $5 million.
So it's
Coverage.
comparison? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
with
it's
cre-
apples
with-
to apples.
With the credits
okay,
and the $5 million liability, it was $81,416.96.
8141696?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
anything else, Jan?
Just wanna make sure I got it.
I just wanna say that Mike's microphone is the only one that I can hear. Everybody else is his number.
That's just because I'm really loud.
No,
Well, we're
I try to, can you
Is
hear me
it
better now?
If you're up closer, maybe we're
Oh,
sitting too
yeah.
far back. All right, we're sitting too far back.
That honestly, are we kinda going through that? That's what I was told by somebody, that you need to be within 6 inches of the microphone for them to properly work.
So it's gotta be in your face.
So you gotta have it.
Really?
I can hear you, but now you're up at the microphone and now it comes through.
Okay, thank you for letting us know, because that's important. You know, I wasn't getting that kinda, now I am.
Right, yeah.
Now you're
Okay.
getting your echo thing.
That's what people at home have trouble with too, is that you're not close enough to it, so you're talking, but they can't hear you.
So you need to have them up
And
close.
I'm loud like you too.
Yeah.
I don't need.
I probably don't need the microphone, but honestly,
For those at home, we'll do better next time.
Yes,
Yes, we
yes.
have-
our apologies.
Well, the thing of it is, I do appreciate, because I have had, and I say this in due respect and appreciation of, the other day, I got a phone call because they were watching. And, not everybody's able to be here, and just had a question or a comment. I appreciate that, and it's important for us to be able to convey, to them at home too as well. And I
Yep.
appreciate them taking the time to watch too as well, so. Anyway, no further, business on the agenda. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion.
I'll second it.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Thank you all.
Wow. Couldn't have said that fast enough.
Oh, they
I was
beat me
trying.
last time.
I have 8:46.
See ya. Take care.
Yes, thank you.
Takes a while to spend money. On the way here, I thought about that too.
10-minute recess and do jumping jacks halfway through.
Well, we could have a kind of a stretching deal. See ya. You know, I have to be honest with you, and I have to apologize, because I opted not to go to Pier tomorrow because of me being down in Dakota Valley today.
Government teacher gets a little bit of leeway in learning about policy.
Well, I know, but the thing,